Windscale fire, United Kingdom. In October 1957, Britain's first nuclear reactor at Windscale was producing materials for both energy and weapons, but during a routine heating process, temperatures spiraled out of control. The reactor's graphite core caught fire, burning for 3 full days. Radioactive materials, including iodine-131, spread across large parts of the UK. Thousands of liters of milk had to be destroyed to prevent contamination. The government downplayed the event at the time, but later studies linked it to increased cancer risks in nearby areas. The Windscale fire forced Britain to upgrade its safety standards and was one of the first signs that nuclear power carried very real risks. Kishtim disaster, Soviet Union. Just 2 weeks earlier, in September 1957, a nuclear facility in the Soviet Union suffered a massive explosion at the Mayak plant in Chelyabinsk. A storage tank containing highly radioactive waste exploded when its cooling system failed. The blast released huge amounts of radiation over hundreds of square kilometers, contaminating dozens of villages. Around 10,000 people were evacuated, but because the disaster was classified by the Soviet government, the world didn't learn about it until decades later. Today, the affected region is still known as the East Ural Radioactive Trace, one of the most contaminated places on Earth. SL-1 accident, United States, 1961. On January 3, 1961, at a remote U.S. Army test site in Idaho, a small experimental reactor called SL-1 suffered a catastrophic accident. During maintenance, a single control rod was removed too quickly, triggering a massive power spike and a steam explosion. 3 operators were killed instantly. This was the first and only fatal reactor accident in the United States. The tragedy led to significant changes in training and reactor design for military and civilian facilities. 3 Mile Island, United States, 1979. On March 28, 1979, the 3 Mile Island nuclear plant in Pennsylvania experienced a partial core meltdown after a valve malfunctioned and operators misread key indicators in the control room. Radioactive gases were released into the atmosphere at low levels. No immediate deaths occurred, but public reaction was severe. News coverage ran for days. Protests against nuclear power grew, and construction of new nuclear plants in the U.S. slowed dramatically. 3 Mile Island became a turning point for how Americans viewed nuclear energy. Chernobyl, Soviet Union, 1986. On the date, April 26th, during a late-night safety test at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in present-day Ukraine, operators disabled critical safety systems. The RBMK reactor design had serious flaws, and when things went wrong, the reactor exploded twice, destroying the building and releasing radioactive materials across Europe. The nearby city of Pripyat was evacuated within 36 hours. Dozens of workers and firefighters died from acute radiation exposure, and thousands more suffered long-term health effects. The Chernobyl exclusion zone remains off-limits. Nearly 4 decades later, Chernobyl changed international nuclear policies forever, leading to stricter safety regulations and better reactor designs worldwide. Goiânia accident, Brazil. In 1987, in the city of Goiânia, Brazil, 2 scrap metal collectors entered an abandoned medical clinic and found a radiotherapy machine. Inside was cesium-137, a highly radioactive material that glowed blue in the dark. Thinking it was valuable, they took it home and even shared it with neighbors. People handled it with their bare hands, unaware of the danger. 4 people died, hundreds were contaminated, and thousands were screened for exposure. It became one of the worst radiation accidents involving a medical source rather than a nuclear reactor. Tokimura accident, Japan, 1999. In September 1999, at a uranium fuel processing plant in Tokimura, Japan, workers mixed a batch of fuel manually using buckets and ignoring safety protocols. A sudden chain reaction started, exposing hundreds of workers and residents to radiation for nearly 20 hours before it was stopped. 2 workers later died, and the accident prompted major reforms in Japan's nuclear safety practices. Fukushima Daiichi, Japan, 2011. On March 11, 2011, Japan was hit by a 9.0 magnitude earthquake followed by a massive tsunami. At the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear plant, the waves knocked out backup power systems that cooled the reactors. Within days, 3 reactors suffered meltdowns. Radiation spread into the air and Pacific Ocean, forcing over 150,000 people to evacuate. Fukushima became the most serious nuclear accident since Chernobyl and led many countries to reconsider their reliance on nuclear energy. If you want more of such videos and have ideas for them, make sure to subscribe and comment down below.